Right, episode 2 of Horses and Fiction. Here with J.A. Stein, that's me, and my horse Val, because we are walking in circles and we're bored. And if you don't miss why we're walking in circles, it's because she is rehabbing from an injury, and we have a long way to go with this whole rehab thing, so we're going to have a little fun, and we're going to read books while we're walking about horses and historical fiction and all my favorite things. And maybe we'll add in some other fiction too. But anyway, this is what we're starting with. So last time I read you my book. Today I'm picking on somebody else. This is Virginia Henley, very prolific romance writer. And her book Ravished, which is, I just read this a few weeks ago. It's an older one. I think it was published, I can tell you in a second. I want to say the 90s, 2002. So it's been out for a while. It was fun. It was entertaining. There's like a little freaky twin thing going on in here. But we're here to talk about horses, not really do book reviews, because there's another million people doing book reviews out there. And I just like to talk about horses. So, short passage today. Hopefully you get a little laugh out of this if you know anything about horses, and if you don't, you're going to learn something. So, we are in, I don't even know what chapter, towards the end of the book, chapter 26. And, little backstory, the premise at this part of the book is there's these two brothers, and Nick Hatton is like the good twin, I guess you could say. Like, he's the one that's got the business sense and the brains and wants to preserve his family legacy, and part of his brains and business wherewithal is that he's very good at breeding and managing horses, and his managing the horse farm for the family is what has made them tons of money so far. Okay, so you need to know that little bit. As far as horse stuff goes, totally true in this day and age. If you know what good horses look like and you're good at matching them up with other good horses and breeding good horses, you're going to make a lot of money, because there's always a market for good horses. Even in this day and age where we don't use them to get around every single place we go to. So, I mean, obviously the market now is a lot less than it was back in the 1700s, which is where this book is set. Maybe early 1800s, I want to say kind of a Regency era thing. Of course, that's not really my era of writing, so I could be putting my foot in my mouth and calling it a Regency thing. But anyway, it's like around that era. So, short passage, okay? Nick Hatton was in no great hurry to see John Eaton, and he desperately waited until after lunch to set out for Slough. He surmised that in the first light, Eaton would have informed the county authorities that his coach had been robbed. Sorry, it's hard to read and walk at the same time. That his coach had been robbed on Hounslow Heath, and that they would have dispatched an officer to investigate. When Eaton's baggage and files were recovered in Dog's Hollow, they would have returned them to him. For his own perverse pleasure, Nick wanted to arrive after the fact. When he rode into the courtyard at Eaton Place, he hid his amusement and nodded politely to the driver he had encountered last night, who was now washing the mud from the black Berline coach. At the stables, Nick turned his gray yearling over to a groom, then proceeded to the front door, which was opened by Eaton's liveried major domo. Okay, so you got my little chuckle there. He rides a gray yearling into the stable. I'm sorry, people, but we don't ride yearlings. Yearlings are, by definition, horses that are only a year old. So they are still growing, they are still developing, they are not they're not trained. If you were to start riding a yearling, you're probably going to wear their joints and ligaments out. And this is, like, especially true today, Like the earliest we start horses, even in this day and age, is usually around 2 years old. And then we're talking like, mostly that's for like the race horses on the track. Like they do start running them on the track at about 2 years old, but you're not gonna just waltz into the stable after a cross-country ride between your country estate to the neighbor's stable on a yearling. And I'm not sure why the author did this, because for the most part the rest of her horse stuff in this book was pretty much right on. I don't know, but it just is one of those lines in fiction that made me giggle. Like, okay, this guy is this expert horseman, and he's riding a yearling. Like, he could be riding a young horse, but not a yearling. Not cross country, and not just hopping off and putting it away like it's nothing. Like, oh, it's just one of the lines that makes you giggle when you read these historical fiction novels. So as we go through this little series, I have found some other little things like that in some books that we're going to talk about. And then there's been also some books that are like so dead on that it's really fun. And it's like, wow, this author actually rides. And we're going to talk about those too. So I don't know. That's where we're at. But there's your little segment from Ravished by Virginia Henley. So have a great day, guys. Bye. Ooh, Val, we're up in the camera.